Let's start and talk a little bit about politics, the politics of this moment. You historically actually have been in favor of a wealth tax, I think.
Of a high estate tax.
Of a high estate tax.
Yeah.
So there is now on the table, Elizabeth Warren has a true wealth tax on the table, 6% for billionaires. It would cost you, I believe, close to $6 billion annually if you had to pay it on top of what you already pay. What do you think of all of this?
Well, I think the span of the two parties in terms of where they are in taxation has never been so broad. You have, one party reducing corporate taxes, still supporting carried interest. Taxes on capital are way, way less than on labor. And, the estate tax, they're still talking about, hey, that's a bad thing, that a dead person should pay part of their wealth, and you should reduce these accumulations of wealth. And now, on the other side, you have, as you say, a 6% wealth tax. I happen to believe something in the middle. I think you can make the estate tax higher. You could even take people who've sat on huge gains for, say, 10 years and say, okay, you should create a taxation event there. I think just by treating capital income the same as labor income, that goes a very long distance. So I'm all for super progressive tax systems. You do need to couple these things with more transparency. The fact that you can, through trust-like structures, hide lots of beneficial ownership and get away with a lot, both at the corporate level and at the individual level, we can do a lot better there. So I'm impressed that there are a few candidates that go even beyond my view. And I do think if you tax too much, you do risk the capital formation, innovation. U.S. is the desirable place to do innovative companies. I do think you risk that. Now, somebody can say I'm very biased since I've been a prime beneficiary of the existing system. But I'd love somebody to find a middle ground approach, because the government's role in healthcare and better education, the government does need more resources than it has today.
And so what would you do?
Well, if you make the tax on capital the same as labor, you go back to the estate tax that we used to have, doing something like the 10-year thing, where it's super large fortune. The big fortunes are not, as Piketty says, a return on capital. The big fortunes are the return on creating companies that achieve very strong positions, particularly in the technology industry. That's where you get these super big numbers. And so there, I've paid over $10 billion in taxes. I paid more than anyone in taxes. But I'm glad to have paid, if I'd had to pay $20 billion, it's fine. But when you say I should pay $100 billion, okay, then I'm starting to do a little math about what I have left over. Sorry, I'm just kidding. So you really want the incentive system to be there, and you can go a long ways without threatening that.
Have you ever talked to Elizabeth Warren about any of this before?
I've not.
Would you? Would you want to?
I'm not sure how open-minded she is. Or that she'd even be willing to sit down with somebody, who has large amounts of money.
Okay, so let me make it complicated for you. You've been, politely say, public about your misgivings about our current president. If Elizabeth Warren were the other candidate, what would you do?
I'm not going to, make political declarations, but I do think no matter what policy somebody has in mind, a professional approach is even, as much as I disagree with some of the policy things that are out there, I do think a professional approach to the office, whoever I decide would have the more professional approach in the current situation, probably is the thing that I'll weigh the most. Mm-hmm. And I hope the more professional candidate is an electable candidate.
Okay, we will. I think we can take away something from that.